Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into something a little heavier. Not castles, not plagues, not medieval stew that looks like boiled sadness, but a different kind of survival story. The kind that doesn't involve a thatched roof leaking on your straw mattress, but instead a military cot, a mosquito net full of holes, and the sound of jungle insects screaming in your ears. We're going into Vietnam. Not as a tourist, not with a guidebook, but through the eyes of the men dropped into rivers, mangroves and swampy green hellscapes where every breath carried the weight of humidity and fear. You've probably heard the phrase Navy SEAL and pictured perfect athletes in commercials, glossy recruitment posters, or movies where no one seems to sweat. Forget all of that. The real thing was a lot dirtier, a lot stranger, and sometimes just plain miserable. So tonight, dim your lights, get comfortable in your bed that hopefully isn't infested with anything, and let yourself sink into this journey. Because for the next little while, you're not at home, you're not in the 21st century. You've just woken up in South Vietnam, sometime in the late 1960s. The good news, you're still breathing. The bad news, the air itself is trying to suffocate you. You open your eyes, and the first thing you notice isn't the sun, it's the sound. A chorus of buzzing, chirping, croaking, and humming that never really stops. Not even at night. The Mekong Delta doesn't believe in silence. Out here, nature is loud, and it's relentless. Cicadas scream like broken sirens, frogs grunt like clogged plumbing, and somewhere nearby, something sloshes in the water that you hope is just a fish. You'd like to think it's a fish. You pray it's a fish. But in Vietnam, the water hides more than fish, and the jungle hides more than birds. You roll onto your back on a cot that barely deserves the name, your mosquito net hanging limply above you, dotted with holes like some sort of bug welcome mat. The net is supposed to protect you from malaria, dengue, and all the other lovely gifts this climate has waiting. Instead, it just slows the bugs down a little, like a screen door on a submarine. You can already hear the high-pitched whine of a mosquito right next to your ear. It's been waiting for you to wake up. It's been waiting all night. The air is thick. Not thick like a hot summer day back home, where you might complain about humidity. No, this is different. This is the kind of air that feels alive, like it has weight and claws. Every breath comes with resistance, as though the jungle wants to make sure you never forget where you are. Your shirt clings to you before you even sit up. It's soaked, not because you've been working, not because you've been running, but because simply existing in this place wrings you out like a sponge. You lift an arm and feel the fabric peel away from your skin with a sticky reluctance. It's not even dawn yet, and you're already drenched. You sit up slowly, your joints stiff from another night of half sleep. Sleep here isn't really rest. It's more of a negotiation with your body. You close your eyes, drift for maybe 20 minutes, then wake up because something rustled, or because your own sweat pulled uncomfortably under your back, or because your brain won't stop reminding you that you're in a war zone. Every twig snapping sounds like a rifle. Every splash in the river sounds like trouble. You might manage 3, maybe 4 hours of fractured dozing before your body just gives up and demands you get up. And now you're awake again, whether you wanted to be or not. You glance around at the others. A few guys are still trying to pretend they're asleep, their bodies curled in ways that make you wonder how their spines aren't screaming. Another is already lacing up his boots, his face a silent mask, going through the same routine as yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. Nobody greets the morning with enthusiasm. There's no stretching arms and yawning like a cartoon. Just quiet movements, heavy breaths, and the resigned realization that another day has begun. The cot creaks under you as you swing your legs down. The floor is damp, because of course it is. Everything is damp here. Your socks are never dry. Your boots are never dry. Your gear is never dry. The humidity doesn't let it happen. You could leave a shirt hanging for a week, and it would smell worse than when you took it off. Mould grows like it has a personal grudge against you, spreading over cloth, creeping into leather, turning your belongings into science experiments. You slip on your socks anyway, the fabric clammy against your skin, and shove your feet into your boots. They squish slightly as your heel goes down, a reminder of last night's slog through knee-deep swamp water. You don't think about it. You can't think about it. You just lace them tight and move on. You step outside the tent and the air hits you harder. The night didn't cool anything down. It just traded one kind of misery for another. The fog clings low, curling around the palm trees and tangled roots, making everything look like it's half dissolving. Your skin prickles immediately. Sweat beads on your forehead as though someone just turned a dial. The jungle stretches out in every direction, green and wet and endless. It's beautiful, in the way that dangerous things often are. From a distance, from the safety of a book or a documentary, the delta looks lush, alive, maybe even inviting. Up close, it's claustrophobic. The vegetation presses in on you, chokes out the horizon, makes the world feel small. The rivers wind like snakes. The air hums with invisible wings, and the mud beneath your boots is eager to suck you in. You can't escape it. You don't walk on the land here. You fight with it. Your shirt is already sticking in new places by the time you've taken 5 steps. Your rifle rests against your shoulder, not because you expect to need it right now, but because you can't afford to be without it. The weight is familiar. Heavy, but familiar. It's part of you now. You notice the way your hands automatically check the magazine, the safety, the sling, not because you're thinking about it, but because it's reflex. The war trains you to do things without thought. It wants you alert, twitchy, half exhausted, but still ready. And it works. Around you, the others are shaking off their sleep, muttering low words, maybe sharing a dry joke that doesn't sound funny to anyone else. Laughter here is brittle, quick, more like a release valve than genuine humour. You join in anyway, because sometimes even a bad joke is better than silence. The silence here isn't empty. It's full of things watching, moving, waiting. You rub your eyes and catch a glimpse of the river just beyond the tree line. It lies still for now, reflecting the grey of dawn. The water looks calm, even serene. That's the trick. It always looks calm. You can almost imagine it's safe to swim in, until you remember what swims with you. Snakes, crocodiles, parasites you can't see, but will feel later when your stomach knots up in pain. And beneath all of that, the possibility of enemy movement. Boats gliding silently, shadows that become people when it's too late. The river is a highway, and highways carry traffic in both directions. Breakfast will come soon, but breakfast is just another word here. Food doesn't mean what it does at home. You're not waking up to bacon, eggs and toast. You're waking up to something that was packed in a brown wrapper months ago, shipped across an ocean, and tastes like cardboard seasoned with chemical preservatives. You'll eat it anyway, because your body demands calories. And out here, You don't waste them. You don't have the luxury of being picky. You stretch your shoulders, feeling the knots from yesterday's patrol tighten and complain. The pain never fully goes away. It just settles in, becomes background noise like the bugs. Every day adds a little more weight to it, and every morning you wake up to discover it's still there, waiting. You get used to it. Or maybe you just stop noticing. Hard to tell. The light creeps higher now, the mist thinning a little. You can see the outlines of the trees, the jagged palms, the dense undergrowth. Someone coughs behind you, and the sound seems too loud, bouncing off the wet air. Even something as small as a cough feels risky. Noise carries here. You never really know how far. You take another deep breath, taste the humidity, and it feels like sipping warm water straight from the air. You adjust your gear, shift your rifle, and look out across the delta. Another day is beginning. You don't know exactly what it will bring, but you know it won't be easy. Nothing here is. And with that, the routine starts again. The first thing that always greets you after you leave the cot isn't the sight of the sun, or the sound of your teammates shifting awake, or even the dull creak of your boots squishing against the wet earth. It's the air. It doesn't matter if it's 5 in the morning or 5 in the afternoon. The air is always there, pressing in on you like an invisible hand that refuses to let go. The humidity in the Mekong Delta isn't just a backdrop. It's a constant opponent, a silent force that drains your energy before you've even taken your first step of the day. You inhale, and it feels like you're pulling in something thicker than oxygen, like drinking lukewarm water through your nose. Every breath sticks in your throat, coating your lungs in dampness that never clears. You cough just once, because your body still isn't used to it, even after weeks or months. Nobody's body ever really adjusts. Some guys swear they get used to the heat, to the sweating, to the endless wetness that clings to their skin, but that's not true. You don't adjust. You just run out of ways to complain about it. Your shirt, already damp from the night, turns into a second skin the moment you move. The fabric grabs onto you like a desperate handshake you can't break free from. Your pants, stiff from yesterday's mud, soak through again in patches where the mist settles. Even your gear sweats. The metal of your rifle feels slick when you grip it. Your webbing, your packs, your helmet strap. Everything seems to carry a film of moisture. It's like living inside a wet towel that someone refuses to wring out. The jungle itself exhales heat at you. Every plant, every tree, every vine seems determined to trap the air, recycle it, and throw it back hotter and wetter than before. You'd think being surrounded by rivers and streams would bring some kind of relief, but it's the opposite. The water doesn't cool anything. It just feeds the air, pumps more moisture into it, until the whole world feels like it's steaming. Sweat pours down your back before you've even lifted a pack, and it doesn't evaporate. It can't. There's nowhere for it to go. It just collects, rolls, and settles in uncomfortable places that you'll spend the entire day trying to ignore. You pull at your collar, though you know it won't help. The air doesn't move. There's no breeze, no relief. You could stand still for an hour, and the heat would still crush you like a weight. Some guys joke that they miss winter back home, even if they hated it when they were there. They dream of cold air, of snow, of seeing their breath in front of them. But here, the only thing you see when you exhale is another cloud of damp mist mixing with the haze. The bugs love this air. they thrive in it. Mosquitoes swarm you in waves. Undeterred by the sticky film of repellent that you've rubbed into your skin so many times it feels like an extra layer, they land anyway, drill through anyway, and leave behind red welts that itch for days. Leeches cling to boots and socks, sliding under fabric with a patience that makes your skin crawl. You don't even feel them until you look down and see a dark smear where your blood is leaking. Ants sting, spiders crawl, and the invisible mites that live in the underbrush leave their own signature scratches across your arms and neck. The humid air carries them all, keeps them alive, and ensures they never stop finding you. You wipe your forehead and realise it doesn't matter. The sweat comes back instantly. Your hair clings to your scalp, plastered down as though you've just stepped out of a shower. Except this isn't fresh water. It's your body giving up a constant stream of salt and heat. And the salt leaves marks, white streaks on your shirt, on your gear, a kind of evidence of just how much your body is losing every single day. You drink when you can, when it's safe, but it's never enough. You're always behind, always thirsty, always aware that dehydration is waiting just a few hours ahead if you slip. The smell of the air is another thing you never forget. It's a blend that doesn't exist anywhere else. Wet earth, rotting vegetation, stagnant water, smoke from last night's fire, and the constant sour tang of sweat from the men around you. There's no such thing as freshness here. No crisp mountain air. No sharp breeze off the sea. Just this heavy, swampy perfume that sticks in your nose until it feels like part of your body. Sometimes, when you catch the faint scent of something burning in the distance, you wonder if it's cooking fires or something worse. The humid air carries those smells for miles, twisting them until you can't tell the difference. Moving in this air feels like dragging yourself through syrup. Every step is effort. Every breath takes willpower. You're not even on patrol yet, but already your energy is leaking out of you as fast as your sweat. The Delta wants you tired. It wants you slow. And that's the danger. Because while you're slogging through this invisible wall of wet heat, someone else might be moving lighter, quieter, with less weight on their shoulders. Out here, the environment is just as much an enemy as the people hiding in it. You remember what the instructors back in training said about this place? They warned you about the heat, the humidity, the constant dampness. But warnings are easy. Living it is something else. Back then, it was words on a chalkboard. Now it's your skin itching, your lungs dragging, your boots squishing, your body soaked through before breakfast. They told you to respect the climate. Out here, you don't just respect it, you fear it. Because the jungle doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're strong, trained, or armed to the teeth. It will grind you down, day after day, until even the strongest man feels brittle. Someone behind you mutters a curse under their breath, shaking their head as they wipe their face for the 5th time in as many minutes. You don't answer, because there's nothing to say. Everyone's feeling the same thing. Everyone's suffocating together. Complaining doesn't make the air any lighter. It just wastes more of the breath you're already struggling to hold on to. You look down at your hands, already slick again, the rifle slipping slightly as you adjust your grip. You think about how, back home, a hot day meant rolling the windows down in your car, grabbing a cold drink, maybe heading to the pool. Here, there are no cars, no pools, no relief. Just this thick embrace of heat and moisture that won't let go. And the day hasn't even started yet. Your stomach growls, though it's not exactly enthusiasm. Hunger here isn't the sharp, clean kind you might get at home when you skip a meal. It's duller, slower, more like your body reminding you that it needs fuel just to keep sweating and staggering through the day. You don't wake up in Vietnam expecting pancakes, bacon, or even a slice of toast. Breakfast in this place is more of a chore than a comfort. Somebody cracks open a green-brown package, one of the Meal Combat Individual Rations, MCIs. You already know what's inside before they even spread it out. It's always the same small lottery of canned goods and dry accessories, a grab bag of military optimism sealed in tin and cardboard. The army calls it nourishment. Most guys call it meals, constipation included. You pull out your own box and slide it open. Inside are a few metal cans, a tiny packet of instant coffee, some creamer that hasn't been near a cow in its entire existence, a couple of crackers harder than roofing shingles, and if you're lucky, a piece of candy that's been sweating in wax paper since the Johnson administration. Each can has a mystery label stamped in dull black ink. Beef slices with gravy, ham and lima beans, chicken loaf. The words sound like food. The reality looks like something scraped out of a clogged drain. You tap one of the cans against your knee, listening to the metallic rattle. No can opener. No problem. You can jab it open with your knife, the same one you'll use later for cutting vines or prying leeches off your leg. The lid peels back reluctantly with a metallic squeal, releasing a smell that makes your nostrils tense. Whatever meat this once was, it's been drowned in grease and sealed away long enough to smell faintly of machine oil. You stir it with the end of your spoon, watching the fat congeal in the humidity. Next to you, someone else has opened ham and lima beans. The can reveals a pale pink sludge dotted with limp green lumps. The nickname for this one is simple: Ham and Mother, S. Most guys would rather stay hungry than eat it. The bravest among you spoon a little into their mouth and chew in silence, their eyes distant, as though they've mentally left their body to cope with the taste. The crackers are safer. They come in wax-sealed packs, brittle and dry. They're not bread, not even close. They're closer to drywall, bite into one, and it splinters into dust that coats your tongue. The trick is to spread something on them. Peanut butter if you're lucky, jelly if the supply gods are merciful, or processed cheese spread if you drew the short straw. The cheese comes in a little tube, a thick orange paste that looks and tastes like it was designed in a lab to survive nuclear fallout. You squeeze it onto the cracker, watch it ooze like toothpaste, and crunch it down. It tastes like salt and chemicals, but it keeps your jaw busy. You wash it down with instant coffee. You tear the packet open, pour the powder into a dented tin cup, and swirl it with water that may or may not have been boiled long enough. The powder doesn't dissolve completely. It clumps, floating like brown islands across the surface. You drink it anyway. The first sip is bitter, sour, metallic. It scalds your throat if it's hot, chills your teeth if it's cold, but either way it delivers the one thing you need: caffeine. Enough to trick your brain into thinking you're ready for the day. The humid air doesn't help. It makes everything taste worse, smell worse, feel worse. The cans sweat as soon as they're opened. The crackers soften if you don't eat them fast enough. Even the candy bar, if you get one, melts into a warped brick that glues itself to the wrapper. You chew it anyway because sugar is sugar. And out here, sweetness is rare enough to feel like a holiday. The conversation around breakfast is thin. A grunt here, a muttered curse there. The occasional sarcastic remark about which menu option is the worst. Nobody lingers over the food. You eat it because you have to. You shovel it in quickly, swallowing down the taste with gulps of coffee or canteen water, then toss the empty cans into a pile that will be buried or hauled away. You don't savour it, you endure it. Sometimes you hear stories about guys trying to get creative with the rations, mixing the instant coffee with the cocoa powder, crumbling crackers into the canned stew to thicken it, trading one item for another like kids swapping school lunch. But in the end, no matter how you combine it, the taste doesn't change much. It's still bland, still heavy, still a constant reminder that food here is just fuel, nothing more. Back home, breakfast is about comfort, about starting the day on the right note. Here, breakfast is about survival. Calories mean energy. Energy means you can carry your pack through the swamp, paddle a boat down the river, or crawl on your belly through mud without collapsing. You don't eat for pleasure. You eat so you don't faint before noon. The sound of spoons scraping cans fills the air. The metallic clinks echo softly under the blanket of insect noise. A few guys light cigarettes after finishing, the smoke curling up into the humid air, mixing with the smell of grease and sweat. They take long drags, holding the smoke in their lungs like it's the first clean thing they've breathed all day. Cigarettes are rationed too, but most guys find a way to keep a stash. Out here, nicotine is its own kind of fuel. You set your empty can aside, wipe your spoon on your pant leg, and take one last sip of coffee. It's lukewarm now, gritty at the bottom, but you force it down. Your stomach feels heavy, but not satisfied. Food doesn't comfort you here. It just fills the space. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls out, sharp and sudden. The group goes quiet for a moment, ears pricked, eyes scanning. Then someone mutters, "Just a bird," and the noise of eating resumes. That's breakfast in the Delta. You never really relax. You chew, you swallow, you stay alert. Even at your first meal of the day, the war sits next to you, silent, waiting. You look down at your hands, greasy from the can, sticky from the crackers, trembling slightly from the coffee. You lick your fingers, wipe them again, and stand up. The meal is over. Your stomach may not thank you, but your body will need it soon enough. Because once breakfast is done, the real work begins. You finish breakfast, if you can even call it that, and now comes the next ritual. Not prayer, not reflection, not a moment of peace. No, it's time to suit up. To load yourself down with enough steel, nylon, and ordnance to sink a small boat. Out here, you don't step into the jungle lightly. You carry half your life on your shoulders, and the other half in your hands. The first piece is the rifle. Always the rifle. For most, it's the M16, that long black silhouette of metal and plastic that looks sleek in the manuals, but feels like a cinder block when you've carried it for 12 hours straight in heat, thick enough to choke a horse. It weighs a little over 7 pounds empty, closer to 9 once you slap in a loaded magazine. Doesn't sound like much on paper. But in the Delta, 9 pounds might as well be 90. Every step, every breath, every bead of sweat, the weight presses on you until your arms ache. And that's before you add the spare magazines. 6, 8, sometimes more, each one heavy with a kind of insurance you can't afford not to carry. You feel them drag against your chest and belt, a constant reminder that bullets are currency here, and you're expected to carry enough to spend freely. Next comes the sidearm, a .45 pistol in a holster strapped to your hip. Another couple of pounds that tug on your belt and thud against your thigh with every movement. You tell yourself it's a backup, that you'll never really need it, but you carry it anyway. Out here, not having a backup isn't an option. Then there's the web gear. Canvas straps and pouches that wrap around your torso, loaded with grenades, extra ammo, smoke canisters, water, and whatever else someone decided you couldn't live without. The straps dig into your shoulders, already slick with sweat, biting down harder as the day wears on. You shift them, adjust them, but they never feel right. They always pinch somewhere, always rub a raw spot into your skin. By nightfall, you'll have welts and blisters, and by morning, you'll strap it all on again anyway. Your rucksack sits waiting, a green canvas beast that seems to double in weight every time you pick it up. Inside are the essentials, if you can call them that. Extra socks that will be soaked within minutes. Rations that taste like wet cardboard but keep you moving. Medical supplies that may or may not be enough to patch a bullet hole. A poncho that traps more heat than it blocks rain. Maybe a claymore mine or extra radio batteries if you drew the short straw. Every ounce matters, but out here, every ounce feels like lead. Sling the ruck onto your back, and your spine groans like an old door hinge. The helmet is next. Steel, heavy, and always sliding forward when you look down. It presses on your head, traps the heat, and makes every step feel clumsier. Some guys trade them for soft caps when they think they can get away with it, but most keep them on. The jungle drops branches, the enemy throws shrapnel, and helmets, uncomfortable as they are, sometimes make the difference between walking away or not walking at all. Around your neck hangs a bandolier or two, more magazines stuffed into canvas slings, bouncing against your chest as you move. The metal corners dig into your ribs. You try to adjust them, but no matter how you shift, something always jabs, something always bruises. By the end of the day, you'll have little square imprints pressed into your skin, badges of fatigue no one celebrates. Don't forget the radio. If you're unlucky enough to be the radio man, that's another £25 strapped to your back. A metal box with an antenna that loves to snag on every branch, every vine, every obstacle the jungle throws at you. It hums and crackles in your ear, a lifeline and a curse. Everyone wants the radio man close, but nobody envies the weight he carries. Then there are the grenades. Smooth, round, and deceptively heavy, clipped to your vest like oversized ornaments. You count them carefully, making sure the pins are secure, the spoons snug. A loose grenade isn't just dangerous, it's suicidal. Each one adds a little more drag, a little more weight pulling you down. Knives too. Everyone carries at least one. A fighting knife strapped to your belt or boot, sometimes a smaller blade tucked away for cutting rope, opening rations, or, if you're desperate, prying a leech off your skin. They add ounces, but ounces stack fast until you feel like you're carrying another person piggyback. And water. Always water. Canteens clunk against your hips. Full at the start of the day, lighter by the end, but never light enough to forget. The irony of the Delta is that you're surrounded by water, knee deep in it half the time, but you can't drink a drop without boiling or treating it. So you haul gallons on your back, knowing every pound is necessary, knowing it still won't be enough. When it's all strapped on, when every pouch is stuffed, every strap cinched, every buckle tightened, you stand there for a moment, adjusting to the sheer mass of it. The numbers don't do it justice. 50, 60, 70 pounds. It doesn't sound impossible. But the way it drags on your shoulders, the way it soars into your hips, the way it steals your balance on slick ground, that's where you feel it. It's not just weight. It's gravity turned cruel. You take a step, and your knees already protest. You shift your shoulders, but the straps dig deeper. You hunch forward slightly, trying to find the balance point, but there isn't one. Every move feels like a negotiation. Every breath feels like it costs more. And this is before you even step off the cleared ground into the jungle. The gear changes the way you think too. You don't just plan where you're going. You plan how to get there without collapsing. You measure distance not in miles, but in how many times you'll have to stop, adjust, and pray your back doesn't give out. You learn to pace yourself, to conserve energy, to accept that you'll always be tired. Always, and the sweat. The gear traps it, collects it, turns your uniform into a sponge. The webbing darkens with patches. The helmet liner drips. The rucksack straps squish against your shoulders. Your body is trying to cool itself, but the weight doesn't let it. You're cooking inside your own skin, wrapped in steel, cloth, and misery. Sometimes, in the middle of a march, you catch yourself wondering how much of it you could drop, or if it came to a sprint. The rifle? Never. The sidearm? Maybe. The ruck? Probably. But the thought lingers, because every ounce you carry is an ounce you might not survive. And yet, the same ounces might be the difference between life and death later. It's a cruel joke. You can't win. You just carry it all and hope your legs hold out. By the time you've shouldered everything, your body feels older. Your spine aches. Your knees throbs. Your shoulders are already raw. And the day hasn't even begun. You glance around at the others, see them hunched under their own loads, grim faces set in the same silent determination. Nobody talks about the weight. They don't have to. It's written in every step. You adjust your straps one last time, hitch the rifle higher against your shoulder, and take a slow breath of the heavy air. The gear presses down on you like a second body, but you know you'll carry it all the same, because out here, there's no choice. You don't fight the weight, you endure it, and then you take your first step into the green wall of the jungle, the gear dragging at you, the sweat already stinging your eyes, the day stretching out ahead like a punishment. You can strap on the gear, tighten the webbing until it cuts into your shoulders, and prepare your mind for another march into the jungle. But no matter how much steel, cloth, and ammunition you carry, there's no weapon sharp enough, no explosive powerful enough to deal with the real enemies of the Delta. They don't carry rifles. They don't need strategy. They just swarm, crawl, and feed. Your true roommates out here are the mosquitoes, the leeches, and a dozen other pests that have declared permanent residency on your body. The mosquitoes arrive first. They always do. Before you've even stepped off camp's edge, they're there buzzing in formation like a tiny air force. The sound is maddening, that high-pitched whine drilling into your ears, constant and sharp. You slap at your arm, only to find two more already settling in on your neck. You douse yourself in repellent, thick, oily DEET, smeared over every inch of exposed skin, but it never matters. The bugs don't care. They land anyway, greedy and relentless, their bodies swelling red with your blood in seconds. You swat, they scatter, and a moment later, they're back again, hungrier than before. You tell yourself you'll get used to it, that the itching and burning will fade, that eventually your brain will filter out the sound. But it never does. The mosquitoes don't give you that mercy. They bite through fabric, through socks, through whatever thin barrier you throw between them and your flesh. At night, when you try to sleep under the net, they whine just inches from your ear, reminding you they'll be waiting when you step out. Some carry malaria, others dengue, others who knows what. Every bite is a tiny roll of the dice. Out here, survival isn't just about dodging bullets. It's about not collapsing into a fever that cooks you alive from the inside out. And then there are the leeches. Silent, patient, and impossible to avoid. You wade through water knee-deep, sometimes waist-deep, and you don't feel them at first. They slide in quietly, slipping under the tops of your boots, working their way inside your socks, attaching themselves to your ankles, calves, thighs. You keep walking, unaware, until you feel the faintest tug, a slight itch. By then they're already drinking. Fat little bodies engorging with your blood, hidden until you finally look down and see the dark smear spreading under the fabric. The worst part isn't finding them, it's taking them off. They don't let go. You can't just pull them free. They tear, leaving part of themselves behind, a guaranteed infection in this humid swamp. The trick is heat. Burn them with the cherry of a cigarette, or salt if you remembered to pack any. Sometimes, though, you just grit your teeth, yank, and hope for the best. The wound keeps bleeding long after they're gone. The jungle doesn't give you clean cuts. Every bite, every scratch, every leech wound is another open door for infection. You start to itch constantly, 100 little points all over your body. Mosquito bites swell red. Leech wounds ooze slowly. Other insects leave welts and scratches that sting with sweat. You scratch until your skin burns, then scratch again because the relief is fleeting. Your nails carry dirt, the dirt carries bacteria, and the cycle repeats. Out here, your skin never heals. It just gets covered in layers of new damage. Ants join the circus. Fire ants that swarm your boots when you step in the wrong place, biting in unison with a pain sharp enough to make you curse out loud. Carpenter ants that crawl into your gear, chew at straps, bite your hands as you reach for a magazine. Even the smaller ones sting enough to remind you they're always around. Step on a mound, and suddenly your legs are alive with fury, every inch crawling, every bite sending up a sting of fire. Spiders too. Not the small house kind, but thick-bodied ones that lurk in the underbrush. Their webs stretched across paths like invisible snares. Walk face first into one, and you'll be swiping at your head for minutes, convinced the creature is crawling across your scalp. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Either way, you can't shake the feeling. The jungle adds centipedes, millipedes, scorpions, all happy to claim their own share of your misery. Some just crawl over your boots, others sting with venom that makes your skin throb for hours. None of them are kind. And then there's the rats. Not the occasional pest you see back home in alleyways. These ones are bold, fat, and clever. They sneak into your pack, chew through wrappers, leave behind droppings in the rations you were saving. At night, they skitter across the tent floor, their tiny claws scratching, their bodies rustling through gear. You kick out, swear, try to chase them off, but they always come back. In the Delta, food isn't just scarce for you. It's scarce for everything, and everything wants what you have. The real cruelty of these roommates is the constancy. You can fight an ambush, repel a skirmish, take cover from a mortar barrage. Those are moments, events. But the insects, the leeches, the rats, they never stop. From the second you wake to the second you close your eyes, they're there, feeding, biting, crawling. They grind you down in ways bullets can't. They don't kill you outright. They just make sure you never feel clean, never feel rested, never feel safe. You glance down at your boots mid-march, already streaked with mud and dark stains, and see another leech squirming at the seam. You reach down, flick it off, watch it drop back into the wet ground where a dozen more wait. You take another step, and no more are already finding their way up your legs. It never ends. Some guys joke about it, because joking is the only weapon left. They name the leeches, talk to them like pets. They compare mosquito bite counts, like kids bragging about baseball cards. They laugh about how many parasites are probably swimming in their stomachs already. The humour is brittle, desperate, but it's better than silence. Because silence means acknowledging that the jungle is winning, that it's bleeding you slowly, inch by inch. You adjust your pack, swat at your neck, wipe at the sweat stinging your eyes, and keep moving. The bugs follow. The leeches cling. The rats wait. These are your roommates now. You didn't choose them, but you don't get a say. Out here, they come with the territory, and as you push deeper into the green wall of vines and mud, you know they'll be with you every step of the way. The jungle presses in on you from every side, but it's the water that truly defines this place. The Mekong Delta isn't just land with rivers running through it, it's rivers with scraps of land clinging to the edges. No matter where you go, eventually you hit water. Wide brown channels that stretch out like highways. Narrow streams winding between mangroves. Stagnant pools that smell like something already died in them. Out here, water is everywhere, and none of it is on your side. You come to the edge of the river, and it looks almost peaceful. The surface ripples gently, reflecting the grey sky above, carrying floating clumps of vegetation like little green rafts. For a second, you could almost fool yourself into thinking it's calm, but you know better. The river isn't a friend, it's a trap. The first danger is the current. Even when it looks slow, the Mekong pulls hard. Step into waist-deep water, and you feel it tug immediately, dragging at your legs, threatening to sweep you sideways. With a full rucksack, rifle, and gear, you don't swim. You sink. One misstep, one slip on the muddy bottom, and you're gone before anyone can reach you. Guys drown out here all the time, not from enemy fire, not from explosions, but because the river decided to take them. And then there's what lives in it. Snakes glide silently just under the surface, their bodies barely making a ripple. Most are harmless, some aren't. You don't always know which until it's too late. Crocodiles wait in the shallows, their eyes just above the waterline, patient as stone. You might never see them until the splash comes, sudden and violent, and then it's over. The river hides everything, and everything in it is hungry. Parasites thrive here too. Step in with an open cut, which you always have, and the water seeps in, carrying whatever microscopic menace calls it home. Hours later, your stomach cramps, your skin itches, your body shakes with fever. The river infects as much as it drowns. It's a disease pipeline, flowing endlessly, carrying sickness downstream to whoever dares drink or wade. Even without the creatures, the water itself works against you. It's never clear. Always muddy, always thick with silt. You can't see your own boots when you step in, let alone what waits below. Every step feels blind, your foot sinking into mud that clutches and pulls, threatening to steal your balance. Roots tangle around your ankles, sharp branches jab up from below, hidden traps waiting. You move slow, cautious, heart hammering, because the river doesn't forgive mistakes. Crossings are the worst. You load into small boats, long and shallow, the motors sputtering to life with a rattle that feels too loud, too exposed. The boats cut across the current, low in the water, weighed down by gear and bodies. Every ripple threatens to tip you. Every branch overhead looks like an ambush point. You grip the sides, knuckles white, eyes scanning the banks for movement. The river is open ground, the last place you want to be. Out there, you're a dark shape against the brown water, a perfect target for anyone waiting. And they wait. The delta isn't empty. Someone's always watching. Even on foot, hugging the banks, you never relax. The mud slides under you, the mosquitoes double their assault, and the smell of rot rises thick from the shallows. The mangroves twist into knots, their roots spreading like skeletal fingers, reaching into the water and trapping it in stagnant pools. Every splash sounds louder than it should. Every ripple feels like a signal. You move carefully, but you never feel safe. And yet, you need the rivers. They're roads, whether you like it or not. Boats carry you to places no road ever could. Patrols follow the waterways, slipping through channels too narrow for anything but paddles. Supplies come by water, and sometimes the only way forward is to wade straight through. You hate the river, but you can't escape it. It's part of the delta, and the delta doesn't care how you feel. There are moments when you pause on the bank, watching the water flow past, and it almost tricks you. The surface glistens, the current hums along, and for a second it seems calm, almost beautiful. You can imagine cooling off, dunking your head, letting the water wash away the heat. Then you remember the snakes, the crocodiles, the parasites, the current. You stay on the bank, you stay sweating, filthy, and exhausted, because the alternative is worse. Sometimes you hear stories about guys who couldn't resist, who stripped down, dove in, tried to grab a moment of relief. Sometimes they came back shivering, covered in bites and rashes. Sometimes they didn't come back at all. The river keeps its secrets, and it doesn't return everything it takes. So you keep moving, boots squelching, gear dragging, sweat rolling into your eyes. The river stays beside you, always near, always waiting. You don't trust it, but you can't avoid it. Out here, the water isn't life, it's another enemy. And as you push deeper into the delta, you know the river will follow, winding through every step, reminding you that nothing here is truly safe. Your uniform was designed on paper to blend you into the jungle. Green, brown, black, printed in patterns meant to trick the eye, break up your outline, keep you hidden from the people who'd rather see you dead. On the posters back home, it looks sharp, clean, almost heroic. In the delta, it turns into something else entirely. Within an hour of stepping off, your camo isn't camouflage, it's soaked cloth. The sweat starts almost immediately. The air presses down on you. The weight of the gear digs in, and your body responds the only way it can, pouring out liquid. It runs down your temples, stings your eyes, soaks your shirt until it clings like glue. You shift the rifle on your shoulder, and the sling drags across skin, already rubbed raw. The salt burns every cut, every scratch, every fresh mosquito bite. You taste it when you lick your lips, salty and bitter. A constant reminder that your body is working overtime just to stay upright. The fabric of your uniform never dries, not once. You can strip it off at night, hang it on a line, and by morning it will be just as wet. Sometimes from sweat, sometimes from rain, sometimes from the river water you slogged through. The humidity doesn't let go of it. You start each day pulling on damp trousers, a damp shirt, damp socks, and you stop pretending it bothers you. It's not clothing anymore. It's just another layer of the swamp you wear around your body. Then there's the mud. Then, the Delta has an endless supply of it, and it isn't the kind of mud kids play in back home. This mud is thick, sucking, eager to claim anything that steps into it. It grabs at your boots, pulls you down, forces you to wrench each foot free with a squelch that echoes in the trees. Sometimes it's ankle deep, sometimes knee deep. Sometimes you stumble into a pocket that swallows you nearly to the waist before you scramble out. The weight of your pack doubles when the mud clings to it, coating the canvas, plastering itself onto the straps. You scrape it off, but it always comes back. The mud works its way into everything. The seams of your uniform stiffen with it. Your rifle picks it up, every crevice filling with grit. Your boots never lose the squish, no matter how many times you scrape them on rocks or roots. You wake up with dried mud cracking off your elbows, your knees, your hands. You go to sleep with fresh mud smeared across your face. It's in your fingernails, in your hair, even in your teeth if you're unlucky enough to stumble face first into it. The combination of camouflage, sweat, and mud changes the way you look. No one in the field looks like the posters back home. Faces are streaked with grime, uniforms sag with dampness, every pocket sags heavy with dirt. You stop caring about appearances. You can't iron a shirt when it's soaked through with swamp water. You can't shine boots that are constantly caked in 3 layers of muck. You can't stay clean when the jungle itself is determined to bury you. The mud isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. It breeds infection. Cuts that might have healed back home fester out here, turning red, swelling, filling with pus. A scrape on your shin can put you down harder than a bullet if it festers deep enough. You try to clean them, but what do you use? River water full of parasites? A canteen that's already half empty? You do your best with what you have, but the jungle always has more bacteria than you have bandages. Even the camouflage itself betrays you sometimes. The darker blotches absorb heat, turning your back into a furnace under the midday sun. The fabric rubs and chafes, especially when it's wet, which is always. You end up with raw patches under your arms, behind your knees, across your shoulders where the straps grind it in. You keep moving anyway, because stopping isn't an option. But every step is a reminder that the jungle takes its payment in skin. The smell of it all is something no picture ever captured. Sweat, mud, mildew, the faint tang of mould blooming inside your rucksack. It clings to you the way the mud does. Even when the breeze shifts and carries the jungle's wet green smell past you, underneath it all is the human stink of men who haven't been dry in months. Cigarette smoke, canned rations, swamp muck, gun oil. It all mixes until you can't tell one from the other. At night, you peel off the uniform, but it doesn't feel like relief. The cloth is clammy, heavy with a day's worth of sweat and swamp. You hang it, knowing it won't dry, knowing tomorrow you'll slide back into it like armour made of mildew. Your socks reek, your boots are stiff, and your skin is a map of welts, scratches, and scars. You scratch an old mosquito bite, rubber a blister on your heel, and resign yourself to the fact that nothing will heal properly until you leave this place. If you leave this place. And the mud doesn't just stay on you. It marks everything you touch. Your rifle is never clean. You strip it down, wipe it with a rag, oil it until it shines, and then the very next march it's clogged with grit again. The action sticks, the magazine jams, the barrel clogs. You clean it again, because out here a dirty rifle is a death sentence. It's a cycle you can't win. The jungle puts the mud in, you take it out. The jungle laughs and puts more in. Sometimes you wonder if the camouflage was even necessary. Out here, everyone is filthy. Everyone is covered in the same shades of brown and green. The mud paints you better than the uniform ever could. The sweat darkens your back in irregular patterns that hide you just as well. You could strip down to a pair of shorts, and the swamp itself would still disguise you. But the uniform is the rule. You wear it because it's all you have, and because even soaked through, even reeking of mildew, it still feels like a thin barrier between you and the endless wet. The mud and sweat follow you into your dreams. You close your eyes at night and still feel the squelch of boots pulling free, the stickiness of cloth on your shoulders, the itch of grime behind your ears. You wake up and it's still there, because it never left. It won't leave until the day you step onto a plane and fly away from this place. Until then, you carry it. Camouflage, sweat, mud. They're not just part of the jungle. They're part of you now. When the patrol doesn't take you on foot, it takes you on water. You climb into the boat, low and narrow, built for slipping through channels that look too tight to pass. The metal is always damp, slick with condensation, or mud, or maybe something else you don't want to think too hard about. You settle into your spot, rifle across your lap, rucksack pressing against your spine, and the boat sinks a little lower under the weight. It always feels too low, like the river needs only one excuse to tip you in. The motor sputters alive with a cough of exhaust. It's a small thing, hardly bigger than the fan on the back of an old lawnmower, but the sound cuts through the night like a flare. You freeze, every nerve waiting for a shot, because the delta is never quiet enough to hide a motor. When it does quiet, when the hum drops to a low idle, you shift to paddles. The blades dip into the water silently, breaking the surface without a splash, pulling the boat forward one slow stroke at a time. That's when the silence presses in. The jungle around you never really sleeps, but on the water, the sounds change. The cicadas drone softer. Frogs grunt from the banks. Unseen creatures splash in the reeds. Every sound is magnified. A paddle brushing a root. A boot scuffing against the metal floor. A cough someone tried to hold back. In the dark, silence feels like armour, and every mistake sounds like a signal flare. The river is black at night. Not dark, not dim, but black, like someone poured ink into every channel. You can't see the surface unless it ripples. You can't see the bank unless the moon happens to hit it just right. Sometimes you can't even see the man in front of you, just the faint outline of his helmet when he shifts. You rely on instinct, on training, on the quiet rhythm of the paddles. The boat glides forward, carrying you into the kind of stillness that feels alive. The water slides beneath you, unseen currents tugging, pushing, testing your balance. You grip the side without realizing it, fingers tight on the metal, because the river is always waiting. If it doesn't drown you, it'll feed something else that will. Every shadow on the bank could be something. A tree trunk looks like a figure crouched low. A bend in the roots looks like a rifle barrel. You stare, eyes straining, waiting for movement. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's everything. That's the danger of dark water. It hides more than it shows. The air on the river is thicker, wetter. Your shirt clings, your skin prickles, and every inhale tastes faintly of rot. The smell rises from the banks, from the mud, from the vegetation steeped in water too long. You shift slightly, adjusting your rifle, but every move feels louder than it should. You remind yourself to stay still, to stay quiet, to let the boat carry you without giving the river an excuse. The worst part isn't what you can hear, it's what you can't. The jungle muffles sound, but water carries it. Somewhere upstream, a splash echoes, and you can't tell if it's a fish, a bird, or someone slipping into position. Somewhere downstream, a faint metallic clink, like a tool dropped, or maybe just the river shifting against itself. You don't know, you never know. That's the weight of dark water. Your hands stay tight on the rifle. The sling digs into your neck. You check the magazine again, not because you think it's loose, but because you need something to do, anything to distract you from the river, sliding past, smooth, calm, and completely hostile. Occasionally, a flare lights the sky miles away. The green glow reflects off the water, painting the ripples in pale fire. For a second, you see everything: the banks, the reeds, the helmets of the men in the boat with you. And then, it's gone. Darkness drops again, heavier than before, leaving you blinking against the memory of what you saw. The boat keeps moving, silent, steady, carrying you deeper into the delta. You don't talk. You don't whisper. You just breathe, slow and shallow, trying not to make ripples in the silence. Out here, sound is survival, and the river has ears. You remind yourself that this is what you train for. To move unseen, unheard, a shadow on the water. But training doesn't tell you how heavy the silence feels, or how loud your own heartbeat can sound when the river holds it close. You sit still, you paddle when told, you stare into the black water, and you wait. Always wait. Because the boat is silent, but the delta never is. The boat slides into cover near the bank, and you shift again under the weight of your rifle. It isn't just something you carry, it's something you live with. The steel rests heavy against your shoulder, the sling cuts into your neck, the magazine tugs against your chest. You know exactly how much it weighs, but out here, the numbers mean nothing. The real measure is how it feels at hour 12 of a patrol, when your arms are trembling, your back screams, and you're still clutching it like an extra limb. The rifle is always there. It eats into your body until it feels like part of your skeleton. You sleep with it beside you, sometimes across your chest, because you can't risk it being farther than an arm's reach. You eat with it leaning against your leg, balancing a tin of rations in one hand and the stock in the other. You piss with it slung across your shoulder, careful not to let it slip. It isn't just a weapon, it's a parasite you can't shake, and the rifle is never alone. Your gear rattles with magazines, each one another chunk of steel. They pull at your vest, your belt, your bandoliers. You carry grenades clipped to your chest, heavy and round, thumping against your ribs with every step. You carry a sidearm strapped to your hip, extra knives tucked into boots, smoke grenades, flares, maybe a claymore mine or two if you drew the short straw. Every pound stacks onto the next until you stop thinking of it as equipment and start thinking of it as punishment. You tell yourself the weight is necessary, that every magazine could be the difference between life and death, that every grenade clipped to your vest could save your squad. But telling yourself doesn't make it lighter. You march through mud, shoulders groaning, straps biting, sweat soaking everything, and still the weight doesn't let up. It follows you into the boats, into the swamps, into the narrow channels where every step feels like you're dragging a body on your back. The exhaustion comes next. You think you know what tired is until the Delta teaches you a new definition. Out here, sleep is never whole. You don't climb into a bed, close your eyes and drift into comfort. You collapse wherever you're told, rifle tucked close, boots still on, helmet slipping against your forehead. The ground is always wet, the air always buzzing, the mosquitoes never silent. You close your eyes and you drift, but every sound pulls you half awake again. A frog croaks. A branch snaps. Someone shifts in their sleep. Your brain never lets go. When you do fall deep, it isn't for long. An hour, maybe 2, before the watch rotates and someone nudges you awake. You blink, rub your eyes, and drag yourself upright, because sleeping too long isn't an option. Someone has to stay alert, always. And so, the cycle repeats. 2 hours asleep, 2 hours awake, until you lose track of whether it's day or night, whether you've been awake too long or asleep too short. The dreams are worse than the waking sometimes. You close your eyes and the jungle follows you in. Black water, squelching mud, the whine of mosquitoes, the weight of the gear pressing even in your sleep. You wake up drenched in sweat, unsure if it's from the dream or the air, maybe both. You roll over, shift the rifle, and drift again, because there's no choice. Morning always comes, whether you're ready or not. And when morning comes, the weight is still there. Your rifle still digs into your shoulder, your magazines still tug at your vest, your grenades still bruise your ribs, your body aches, your eyes sting, your legs tremble with every step. You swallow down another can of rations, another cup of bitter coffee, and you go again. Because in the Delta, you don't get rest. You just get moments when you're slightly less exhausted than usual. The lack of sleep makes you clumsy. It makes your vision blur. Your hands shake. Your thoughts drift. You snap awake only when something sharp jolts your nerves. The crack of a branch. The distant thump of artillery. The bark of a sergeant reminding you to keep your eyes open. You rub your face, take another swallow from the canteen, and hope it's enough. It never is. The jungle doesn't let you recharge. It just drains you slower or faster, depending on the day. Sometimes you catch yourself nodding off, even while standing, swaying slightly with the weight of the rifle in your hands. You jerk awake, heart pounding, afraid you missed something. You look around at the others and see the same heavy eyes, the same slumped shoulders. Everyone's running on fumes, but no one admits it. Out here, you don't say you're tired. You just keep walking, keep paddling, keep gripping the steel like it's the only thing tethering you to the world. And in a way, it is. The weapon, the gear, the exhaustion, they're all part of the same reality. You can't separate them. You can't set them down. You just keep carrying it all. The weight on your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, the fog behind your eyes. That's the rhythm of life in the Delta. You're never rested. You're never free of the gear. You just keep moving because stopping isn't an option. Out here, silence doesn't exist. Not at night, not during the day, not ever. The jungle is alive, and it makes sure you never forget it. You lie down, boots still on, rifle tucked under your arm, helmet pressing against your temple, and you close your eyes. That's when the chorus begins. First come the insects. Cicadas whine in waves, rising and falling like sirens that never stop. Mosquitoes buzz right at your ears, whining in tones so sharp they slice into your skull. Beetles click against leaves, wings rattling like dry bones. Every sound is close, always close, like the whole forest is leaning in to whisper at you. Then come the frogs, not the gentle croaks you might hear by a pond back home. These are guttural, throaty, grinding noises that erupt all at once, dozens of them from every side. They grunt, belch, and bark until it sounds less like a swamp, and more like a broken orchestra tuning itself in the dark. Above them, birds call out sharp and sudden. Some shriek high, others make hollow, booming sounds that echo through the trees. You don't know their names. You don't want to. Each one cuts through your half-sleep like an alarm clock with no off switch. And layered over it all is the water. Always the water. Rivers sliding past with a low hiss, unseen creatures splashing, reeds rustling at the banks. Every ripple makes your ears twitch. Every splash sounds bigger than it is. You tell yourself it's just a fish, but your hand still tightens around your rifle stock. If that was all, maybe you could live with it. Maybe you could convince your brain to treat it like background noise, the way people learn to ignore traffic or city hum. But here, background noise can kill you. Because mixed into the sounds of frogs and insects and water, sometimes there's something else. A snapped branch. A hushed voice. The scrape of metal. You don't know if it's imagination or reality. You don't know if the jungle was playing tricks, or if someone's moving just beyond sight, so you stay awake, you listen harder. You convince yourself you'll know the difference if it matters. Sleep doesn't come easy when your ears are tuned to every crackle. The men around you shift on the ground, cots creaking, someone coughing into their sleeve, someone muttering in a dream. You flinch at each sound, waiting for the one that doesn't belong. And then there are the man-made sounds. Distant artillery thumps like a giant heartbeat, shaking the air. Helicopters buzz low in the distance, their blades chopping the night, fading, then gone. Sometimes a firefight erupts miles away, the crack of rifles and machine guns rolling like distant thunder. You lie there, counting shots, wondering if it's close enough to matter, or if tonight you'll be spared. Even when the guns are far, your body doesn't forget. The first time you heard them up close, the sound carved itself into you. Now even a frog snapping its jaws can make you jump, heart hammering, because your nerves can't tell the difference fast enough. Some nights it's worse. The jungle goes quiet. No frogs, no insects, no water sounds, nothing. That silence is worse than the noise. Because when the jungle holds its breath, you know something's coming. Maybe an ambush, maybe nothing. But your body doesn't care. It floods itself with adrenaline, keeps your eyes wide open, ears straining, until the noise starts again or the night ends. You shift in your damp uniform, scratch at a bite on your ankle, wipe sweat from your eyes. Your buddy 2 feet away is snoring softly, somehow finding sleep in the chaos. You envy him, but you don't trust it. You don't let yourself sink that deep. Out here, rest feels dangerous. You stay just awake enough, telling yourself you'll hear it when it matters. And so the night drags on. The jungle hums, shrieks, and splashes, and you lie there, half asleep, half alert, never fully either. By the time morning comes, your eyes burn, your head throbs, and your body feels like it ran a marathon in place. You don't remember if you slept at all, but you know you're still alive, and that's enough. When the sun finally drags itself up over the tree line, and the air turns from heavy to suffocating, you start thinking about food again. Not because you're excited, not because you're craving something good, but because you have to. The jungle drains calories the way it drains sweat, and you can't afford to run empty. Breakfast was canned sludge, and lunch won't be much better. Out here, meals aren't meals. They're packets of survival, sealed in tin, boxed in cardboard, and soaked in chemicals that taste like a science experiment gone wrong. The army calls them MCIs, meal, combat, individual. Everyone comes in a box about the size of a paperback novel. Inside a few cans, a pack of crackers, some instant coffee, maybe a piece of candy if luck is on your side. They all look the same. They all smell the same. And after a while they all taste the same. You peel back the cardboard and the smell hits first. A mixture of tin, grease and stale cracker dust that reminds you of a basement that's been shut too long. The cans clink together in your hands, labels stamped in no-nonsense black ink. Beef slices with gravy. Chicken and rice. Ham and lima beans. The words promise food. The reality inside promises punishment. You pry open the can with your knife, the lid curling back with a metallic squeal. Inside, the contents wobble like they're alive. A pale loaf of pressed meat swimming in gelatin. Rice clumped together in a sticky brick. Ham flecked with limp green lima beans that smell like they've been soaking since the Korean War. The grease rises in the humidity, a film that coats your fingers, your spoon, your throat. You shovel it in anyway, because you don't have a choice. The crackers come next. They break with a snap that sounds satisfying, but once you chew, it's like crunching drywall. Dry, chalky, sucking all the moisture out of your mouth in seconds. If you're lucky, you get a packet of peanut butter or cheese spread to smear on top. The peanut butter is thick enough to glue your tongue to your teeth. The cheese is fluorescent orange, a salty paste that tastes more like chemicals than dairy. You choke it down because it's better than chewing plain cracker dust, but not by much. Then there's the instant coffee. A little brown packet, the powder inside clumped from the humidity. You dump it into a cup or straight into your canteen, stir it with whatever you have, and hope the water's hot enough to dissolve it. It never fully does. You sip it anyway. It tastes like burnt dirt with a metallic aftertaste, but it jolts your nerves awake. That's all you need. Sometimes, tucked in the corner of the box, you find a little piece of candy. A Tootsie Roll maybe, or a small square of chocolate if the heat hasn't melted it into goo. That's the closest thing to joy you'll get out here. Men will trade entire cans of meat for one candy bar. Sugar is currency. Sugar is relief. It melts on your tongue, and for 30 seconds it almost feels like you're somewhere else. Then it's gone, and you're back to chewing canned grease. The jokes about the rations never stop. Meals, constipation included. 3 lies in one: hot, tasty, and filling. Some swear the army designed them not to feed you, but to make you angry enough to keep fighting. You laugh, because if you don't, you'll choke on the taste. The humour is brittle, but it's better than silence. The worst is when you're already exhausted, drenched in sweat, crawling with bites, and you crack open a can only to find ham and lima beans. That one has a reputation. Nobody wants it. The smell alone is enough to kill an appetite. Some men would rather go hungry than swallow it. Others dump it straight into the river, watching the pale chunks float away like little insults. If you're desperate, you eat it, but you never forget the taste. It lingers in your mouth, a mix of salt, slime, and regret. And all of it, every can, every cracker, every paste, is heavy. And you carry it in your ruck, stacked in neat boxes that add up pound by pound. You haul them through mud, across rivers, into ambushes, and at the end of the day, you open them only to find food that tastes like a punishment. The irony never leaves you. You risk your life to keep moving, and your reward is a can of meatloaf that tastes like the inside of a boot. But you keep eating because you have to. Calories mean movement. Movement means survival. You don't eat for pleasure. You don't eat for comfort. You eat because if you don't, your legs will stop, your arms will falter, and out here, falling behind means you're finished. The rations don't taste like food, but they keep you alive. Barely. And when you're done, you lick the grease from your spoon, stuff the empty cans back in your pack to carry until you can dump them, and wash it all down with a sip of lukewarm water that tastes faintly of iodine. You don't feel full. You don't feel satisfied. You just feel heavier, greasier, and a little angrier. But that's lunch in the Delta. That's survival dressed up in cardboard and chemicals. The food sits heavy in your stomach, a mix of grease, salt, and chemicals that your body isn't sure whether to burn or reject. You shoulder your pack again, and that's when the real weight of the day presses down. Not the rifles, not the grenades, not even the rations. It's the heat. It's a kind of heat that doesn't just surround you. It seeps in, burrows deep, and breaks you down from the inside out. By mid-morning, the Delta stops pretending it might be survivable. The sun climbs, and the air thickens until it feels less like air and more like soup. You try to breathe, but every inhale is hot and wet, sticking to the back of your throat. It's like trying to drink the atmosphere, like pulling steam into your lungs instead of oxygen. Each breath feels heavy, unsatisfying, like it's missing something your body needs. Sweat pours instantly. Not beads, not drops, but rivers. It starts at your scalp, runs down your neck, soaks your shirt, drips into your eyes. You wipe it away, and it comes back before your hand even drops. Your shirt clings like shrink wrap. Every movement is making the wet fabric drag across your skin, rubbing it raw in places where straps already cut. Your pants cling too, heavy with moisture, sticking behind your knees, tightening at your thighs. Even your socks are wet, squishing inside your boots, skin softening until it peels if you don't change them fast enough. The heat makes the gear feel twice as heavy. Every strap presses harder, every pouch digs deeper, every buckle feels like it's welded to your skin. Your helmet becomes an oven, trapping the heat on your scalp until your hair is plastered down with sweat. You shift it back, pull it forward again, but there's no relief. The steel is hot to the touch, baking under the sun, pressing against your skull like punishment. The jungle offers no mercy. The canopy overhead blocks the sky, but it doesn't block the heat. It traps it. The air beneath the trees doesn't move. You march through stillness, every step stirring only more hot, damp air. You'd kill for a breeze, just one gust to dry your face, but the Delta doesn't believe in wind. The only time the air shifts is when something moves. A bird, a snake, or sometimes the enemy. And those are the kinds of breezes you don't want. Dehydration creeps in faster than you expect. You drink when you can. unscrewing your canteen, swallowing warm water that tastes of iodine tablets and metal. It doesn't refresh you. It doesn't cool you. It just adds to the heaviness in your stomach. You ration it, sip by sip, because the canteen is never enough. By noon, your mouth is dry again, your lips cracked, your tongue thick. You keep moving anyway, because stopping doesn't make the heat go away. It only makes you notice it more. The insects thrive in it. The hotter it gets, the louder they buzz, the more they swarm. Sweat washes the repellent off your skin until it pools in your collar. Mosquitoes land and bite freely, leaving welts that sting and itch under your straps. Flies buzz around your face, drawn to the salt, relentless in their persistence. You wave them off, swat at them, curse under your breath, but they always come back. Out here the heat isn't just miserable, it's fertile. It feeds everything that wants to make your life worse. The heat warps your mind as much as your body. You start to think slower, react slower. The world blurs at the edges, everything hazy like a lens smeared with grease. Your legs feel heavy, your arms weaker with every step. You know the signs. Heat exhaustion creeping in. First the fatigue, then the headache, then the dizziness that makes the ground tilt under your boots. You force yourself to drink again. Force yourself to keep moving, because sitting down is too close to giving up. And out here, giving up is the same thing as dying. Some guys strip off their shirts when the heat gets unbearable, skin gleaming with sweat, ribs showing through from months of rations that never filled them. They don't care about camouflage, don't care about uniform. They just want a little relief, even if it means sunburn or bug bites. Others refuse, convinced the uniform is the only barrier keeping the jungle from consuming them whole. Either way, the heat doesn't care. It breaks through cloth, through skin, through bone. It gets to everyone eventually. You start to notice the salt stains, white streaks crusting on your sleeves, your pack straps, the front of your shirt. They mark every drop your body lost and won't get back. You rub them with your fingers, the grit scratching like sand, and you wonder how much longer you can keep bleeding water before something inside you gives out. The heat changes your priorities. You don't think about food or comfort or even safety. You think about shade. You think about water that isn't swamp-coloured or crawling with parasites. You think about how much farther you can walk before your knees lock and you go down. That's what the Delta does. It turns survival into a calculation. Every step measured against the weight of the heat. And yet, you keep going. You trudge through mud, through vines, through suffocating air, because stopping isn't an option. You feel the sun baking your helmet, your rifle digging into your shoulder, your lungs straining for air that doesn't satisfy. You know the heat is melting you down hour by hour, but you also know it's not going anywhere. You can fight men, you can fight ambushes, but you can't fight the sun. You can only endure it until the day finally dims and the jungle trades one misery for another. The heat leaves you dizzy, the sweat dripping into your eyes, the straps cutting into your shoulders. But even through all of that, you're expected to stay sharp, to hear, to respond. Out here, communication isn't just important. It's the difference between coming back and never being seen again. And in the Delta, communication is never simple. Voices don't carry the way they should. The jungle swallows sound whole. You speak at a normal volume, and 5 feet away, your buddy hears only fragments. The vines, the trees, The endless layers of leaves dampen everything, sucking it into the green. You shout louder, and suddenly you've announced yourself to half the province. Every word you say is a risk. Too soft, your squad can't hear. Too loud, the enemy does. So you learn to whisper. Short, clipped phrases, half words and signals. A hissed name, a grunt, a quick gesture with your hand. You point, you tap, you wave. Fingers become sentences. The tilt of a chin becomes an order. You keep it brief, because the jungle doesn't allow conversation. Every syllable feels like a bullet fired blindly into the trees. It might hit something, or it might just give away your position. And then there are the radios. Heavy, awkward, slung across the back of the unlucky man who drew the duty. The PRC-25, a steel box with an antenna that seems determined to snag every vine in the delta. The handset crackles in your ear, voices thin and distorted, drowned in static. You strain to make out words over the buzz, repeating them under your breath to be sure. Say again becomes a phrase you mutter more than your own name. The radio never works the way you want it to. Signals bounce, fade, vanish into the air. Sometimes you catch half a transmission, sometimes nothing at all. You're left staring at your radio man, both of you listening to the hiss of dead air, praying the next burst will come through. The batteries die faster than they should, the heat and damp chewing through them as eagerly as it chews through your body. You swap them out, heavy blocks that add more weight to the pack, and hope this one lasts longer. When it does work, the radio doesn't always bring comfort. It carries voices from command miles away, speaking in clipped tones, demanding updates, issuing orders that don't always match the reality under the canopy. You grit your teeth, answer Roger, and follow anyway. You don't have the luxury of debate. Out here, communication flows one way. Orders down, silence up. And sometimes, in the middle of everything, the radio brings the worst sound of all. Nothing. A long silence when you need it most. You key the handset, your thumb pressing hard, voice low but urgent. Nothing comes back. You repeat. Still nothing. You feel the sweat slide down your temple as the jungle hums around you, waiting, listening, refusing to return your call. That silence is worse than gunfire. Gunfire means you know what's happening. Silence means you don't. Even within your own squad, chaos rules. Boots squelch, rifles clink, straps creak. Someone mutters a curse under their breath. Someone else coughs, and the jungle folds it all together into a wall of noise. You lean close to your buddy, mouth inches from his ear, and still you're not sure he caught what you said. He nods anyway, both of you pretending it was clear, because there's no time to argue. You move, you trust, and you hope. The hand signals become second nature. Fist up, stop, 2 fingers, eyes. A flat palm sweeping sideways, spread out. You don't think about them anymore. They're instinct, burned in from training, repeated so often they feel like reflex. You rely on them more than words. Out here, silence is safer, and silence still has a language. But even signals fail when fear takes hold. When the first shots crack through the trees, when the world erupts in smoke and muzzle flash, communication collapses. Men shout over each other, orders tangle, voices rise in panic. The radio squeals with overlapping transmissions, words tumbling into static until nothing is clear. You scream to your buddy, but he's already moving, already firing. The chaos swallows your voice, and for a moment you're alone, cut off, fighting by instinct instead of plan. Afterwards, when the noise dies down and the jungle creeps back in, You realise how fragile it all is. Communication isn't steady. It isn't reliable. It's a gamble. Half-heard whispers, crackling radios, frantic hand signals in the dark. Out here, clarity is rare. Confusion is normal. And somehow, in the middle of that confusion, you're expected to keep each other alive. So you keep your voice low, your ears sharp, your eyes watching for a signal. You repeat back what you think you heard, nod even if you're not sure, and move when everyone else moves. Because in the Delta, hesitation is worse than misunderstanding. You don't always know exactly what was said, but you know enough to keep going. And sometimes that's all the communication you get. Daylight in the Delta is hard, but at least you can see what's grinding you down. At night, everything changes. The heat doesn't vanish. It just shifts, heavier and stickier, clinging to your skin like a wet blanket. The insects don't go quiet. They get louder, buzzing and clicking in waves that rise and fall like a living alarm system. And the jungle itself doesn't sleep. It breathes. Every rustle, every crack, every ripple in the water feels magnified 100 times when the only light comes from a thin slice of moon or the dim glow of a flare miles away. You don't march at night. You creep. Patrols move slower, quieter, one step at a time, boots sinking into soft ground without a sound. You keep your rifle raised, eyes scanning, trying to make sense of the shifting black shapes around you. Shadows stretch, twist, and change until every tree looks like a crouched figure. Every bush looks like it's watching. Your heart kicks harder in your chest, and you keep telling yourself it's just the jungle. But deep down, you don't believe it. Night is when the enemy moves too. You know they know these swamps better than you ever will. They can slip through mangroves, paddle silent boats, crawl belly flat through mud without leaving a trace. You imagine them out there, just beyond sight, watching you pass, waiting. The idea gnaws at you, makes every step feel like it's taking you closer to a trap you'll only see when it's already sprung. The darkness changes sound. The frogs and insects still scream, but you start hearing things beneath them. A faint splash that doesn't sound like a fish. A branch snapping in a rhythm too steady for an animal. A cough muffled in the trees. You stop, freeze, grip your rifle tighter. Your squad halts too, crouched low, eyes searching the blackness. You wait, holding your breath, ears straining until they ring. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's not. The problem is, you never know which until it's too late. You carry no lanterns, no flashlights, no open light at all. Light is death. A single beam cuts the night, and suddenly you've given yourself away. Instead, you trust your eyes to adjust. Trust your ears more than your vision. Trust your nerves even when they're frayed to pieces. You learn to walk half blind, guided by the man in front of you, one hand brushing his shoulder, the other gripping your weapon. The line moves together like a single body, slow and tense, every nerve stretched thin. Sometimes, in that thick darkness, your mind plays tricks. You catch movement out of the corner of your eye, a shadow sliding between trees. You whip your head, raise your rifle, only to see nothing but branches swaying. You hear footsteps behind you, turn, and find only your own squad moving in rhythm. The jungle feeds on your nerves. It knows you're tired, knows your body craves rest, and it twists every rustle into something menacing. And yet sometimes the shadows are real. Sometimes they move because someone's there. A shape slips between the roots, a faint outline against the darker black. The first shots always come suddenly, fast and sharp, ripping through the silence. You drop, heart hammering, firing back at shadows you can barely see. The air fills with muzzle flash, bursts of orange that blind more than they illuminate. You shout, your squad shouts, voices tangled with the crack of rifles and the whine of rounds cutting past your ears. The jungle explodes for seconds or minutes, then falls back into buzzing silence again. And when it does, you're left breathing hard, staring into the dark, wondering if it's over or if it was just the first test. The worst moments are when nothing happens, when you move all night through mud and swamp, every nerve screaming, and no shots ever come. You crawl back to camp at dawn with burning eyes, muscles trembling, every shadow still clinging to your thoughts. That's the trick of night patrols. Even when the enemy doesn't touch you, the fear does. It wears you down, bleeds your resolve, leaves you staring at the trees long after you've closed your eyes. You tell yourself you'll get used to it, that after enough nights, the dark won't rattle you so hard. But the truth is, it never gets easier. Night in the Delta doesn't just hide threats, it manufactures them. Every sound, every flicker of movement, every brush of air against your neck becomes another ghost. And so you keep moving, step by slow step, rifle ready, heart pounding, praying you'll make it until the sky lightens and the shadows melt away. The first drops never come as a surprise. The air has been heavy all day, swollen with clouds that sagged low over the trees, turning the jungle even darker than usual. You feel it before you see it. The air goes still, thicker, as though it's holding its breath. Then comes the soft patter, quickening to a hiss, and before long it's as though the entire sky has dumped itself onto the delta. Rain here doesn't fall politely. It doesn't drift down in gentle drops. It hammers. Sheets of water slam into the trees, pound the mud, rattle on your helmet like drum beats. Within seconds, your uniform is plastered to your skin, as though you've stepped fully clothed into a shower. The jungle floor turns into soup, water pooling faster than it can drain, roots disappearing into brown floods. The sound is constant, a roar that drowns out voices, makes radios crackle with static, and leaves you feeling like the world has shrunk to the wet space immediately around you. At first you think maybe it's relief. The heat has been crushing you for days, sweat soaking your clothes, and now the rain at least cools your skin. For a few minutes, you almost welcome it. But then the reality sets in. The rain doesn't stop. It never stops. It soaks into everything you own, everything you wear, everything you carry. Your rifle, your magazines, your packs, all of it slick and heavy with water. You try to wipe it down, but what's the point? The moment you do, more water slams into it. The jungle is already rusting your steel. The rain just speeds it along. Your boots squelch with every step, water pooling inside until your socks feel like sponges. The skin on your feet softens, peels, blisters. You stop noticing the difference between sweat and rain. Both soak you, both chill you when the wind shifts. Both make your skin itch raw. You change socks if you can, but within minutes they're just as soaked as the last pair. Trench foot becomes a constant threat. The skin between your toes, white and swollen, tender to the touch. The ground disappears under the deluge. Trails vanish. Roots become slick traps. Mudslides pull you sideways. You stumble, go down hard, and come up coated head to toe in wet earth. Your rifle is clotted with it, your helmet tilted, your rucksack twice as heavy as before. You scrape off what you can, but it doesn't matter. The mud is part of you now, plastered into your hair, grinding in your teeth, caked under your fingernails. Nights in the rain are worse. You try to sleep under a poncho strung between two trees, the rain hammering above you like fists. Water pools find seams and drips steadily onto your face. You shift to the side, it finds you there too. Your cot sinks slowly into the mud until you're lying at an angle, damp cloth clinging to your back. The mosquito net sags with the weight of the water, touching your skin, letting the bugs through anyway. You close your eyes and listen to the hammering hour after hour, wondering if it will ever stop. It doesn't. The rain turns rivers into monsters. Currents swell, banks collapse, water rises higher and higher. The boats ride lower, harder to control. One wrong stroke sending you spinning into mangroves. Patrols that used to slip through quiet channels now fight against roaring streams. Paddles biting into water that pulls back twice as hard. Bridges wash out. Trails vanish. The delta becomes a different place, shifting, swallowing, rearranging itself under endless rain. Your gear never dries. Your rations turn soggy if the packaging fails. Crackers reduced to mush. Cardboard collapsing in your pack. Cigarettes disintegrate, paper melting to pulp before you can even light one. Letters from home blur into smudged ink. Words lost forever. Photographs warp, curling at the edges until the faces fade. The rain doesn't just soak you, it eats at the small pieces of comfort you try to keep. And it grinds you down, day after day. The sound alone wears at your nerves. The endless drumming on your helmet, your poncho, your skin. You stop remembering what silence sounds like. You stop remembering what dry feels like. Your world shrinks to mud, water, and the constant pounding that never lets up. Some men start to laugh at it, a brittle, desperate kind of humour. They joke about growing gills, about turning into frogs, about sending a message home asking for a boat instead of socks. The laughter doesn't last long. The rain isn't funny when it's been falling for the 10th day straight, when every bone in your body aches from damp, when your rifle jams because water's found its way into the firing pin. You realise after a while that the rain isn't weather. It's part of the war. It doesn't care who you are, doesn't care what side you're on. It falls on everyone equally, wearing you all down, rusting your weapons, rotting your uniforms, softening the ground beneath your feet until you stumble more often than you stand. The enemy can hide in it, move through it, use it just like you tried to. The rain doesn't favour either side. It just destroys slowly, steadily, without pause. And when it finally does stop, when the sky clears for a few hours, the heat rushes back, steam rising from the ground until the air itself feels like boiling water. You almost find yourself wishing for the rain again, until it comes, and then you curse it all over. That's the rhythm of the delta. Dry doesn't exist. There's only wet and wetter, and the rain never ends. You get used to the noise. The jungle never shut up. Insects whining, frogs grunting, birds shrieking, water splashing somewhere out of sight. Even in the rain, the sound is constant. A wall of noise pressing in on every side. It grates on you, wears you down, but at least it means things are normal. Normal for the delta anyway. Then it happens. The noise dies. Not slowly, not in pieces. 1 second the frogs are screaming, the cicadas buzzing, the water gurgling, and the next it's like someone cut the power. Silence slams down so suddenly it feels physical, like the jungle itself is holding its breath. that's when your stomach knots. Because silence here isn't peace. Silence means something's about to happen. You freeze where you are, boot halfway out of the mud, rifle raised. Your ears strain, desperate to find what the silence is hiding. The sweat on your face feels cold now, your body prickling as though it knows before your mind does. Your squad halts too, each man crouching, scanning, hands tightening around their weapons. Nobody says a word. Nobody has to. You all feel it. The silence stretches. The world feels heavier with it. You can hear your own breathing too loud, your heart thumping against your ribs. Every little sound you make, the creak of a strap, the squelch of mud, the metallic click of a magazine shifting, feels like it's broadcasting to the entire jungle. You hold your breath, shift your weight slower, try to become smaller, quieter. But you know it doesn't matter. If they're out there, they already know you're here. The moments before contact are worse than the contact itself. Your brain fills the silence with every possibility. Shapes in the trees become men crouched low. A dark root sticking out of the mud looks like the barrel of a rifle. You convince yourself you saw movement, that you heard a branch snap. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. The silence doesn't give answers. It just holds you there, on edge, waiting for the first shot. And when it comes, it's never the way you expect. Sometimes it's a burst of automatic fire that rips through the quiet, muzzle flashes strobing in the trees. Sometimes it's a single crack, a sniper shot snapping past your ear. Sometimes it's an explosion, a claymore, a mine, a grenade, erupting without warning. The silence ends with violence, and by the time your body reacts, you're already in it. Your squad scatters for cover, shouts mixing with gunfire, the jungle lighting up with flashes and smoke. The noise comes roaring back all at once, louder than ever, deafening after the stillness. You fire back, heart pounding, every nerve lit up, but part of you remembers the silence just before. How it felt heavier than the fight itself. How it stretched your nerves tighter than any bullet. And sometimes the silence doesn't break at all. You crouch in the mud for minutes that feel like hours, rifle shaking slightly in your hands, waiting for the hit that never comes. Eventually the frogs start again. The insects buzz, the water splashes. The noise returns like nothing happened, like the jungle was just toying with you. You relax a little, but the tension doesn't leave your body. You carry it with you, step after step, because you know the silence will come again. And next time, maybe it won't just be a false alarm. That's the cruelty of the Delta. The jungle screams until you start to tune it out. Then it goes quiet, and suddenly you're wide awake, every nerve burning. The noise wears you down, but the silence breaks you. And the longer you're out here, the more you fear the quiet, because you know exactly what usually comes after. When the patrol finally halts and you crouch in the mud, ears straining, rifle heavy in your hands, your mind does what it always does when the waiting stretches too long. It slips backward. Back to the place where all of this began. Back to the weeks, the months, when you weren't here. When the threat wasn't real. When it was just sand, surf, and instructors who seemed determined to break you down piece by piece. The training was supposed to prepare you for this. Every shouted order, every mile run on too little sleep, every hour spent crawling through mud back home was meant to make this place survivable. You remember the beaches first. Cold water, instructors driving you into the surf, your body shaking as waves crashed over you. The only easy day was yesterday, they said, again and again, until the words burned into your brain. Out here in the Delta, you finally understand what they meant. Hell Week never really leaves you. You can still feel the sting of salt water in your eyes, the sand grinding into your uniform, the endless push-ups, the constant exhaustion. Back then, it felt cruel. Now it feels like rehearsal. The Delta doesn't need instructors to punish you. It punishes you on its own. The mud here makes Coronado's beach look like a playground. The exhaustion here makes those sleepless nights feel like practice drills. But the memory lingers, a ghost whispering in your ear. You've been tired before. You've been cold before. You've survived worse. Maybe the instructors had a way of getting inside your head. They barked, they cursed, they tore you down until you thought you had nothing left. Then they made you go farther. In the middle of the jungle, half blind with fatigue, you hear their voices again, telling you to keep moving, telling you pain is weakness leaving the body, telling you quitting isn't an option. You hated them then. Out here, you hate them still, but you can't deny their words keep your legs moving when every part of you wants to stop. Sometimes, in the middle of a march, a memory from training hits you so sharply it feels real. The smell of gun oil on the range, the sound of boots pounding pavement, the cold bite of dawn air as you hit the surf. For a split second, you're back there, not in Vietnam, but under the eyes of men who made it their mission to make you wish you'd never signed up. Then the jungle snaps you back. A mosquito bite, a branch snagging your helmet, a shout to move faster. The memories fade, but they never disappear. The contrast haunt you. Training was brutal, yes, but it had structure. You knew what was coming. You knew the instructors would scream. You knew the obstacle course would be waiting. You knew how many miles you'd run that day. Out here, there's no schedule, no certainty. You don't know if the next step means another mile of swamp or an ambush that tears through your squad. The chaos makes you long for the misery you once thought unbearable. At least back then, it had an end. You remember the pool sessions too. Endless hours underwater, instructors testing how long you could hold your breath, how much pressure you could take before panic set in. You came close to drowning more times than you can count. Lungs burning, vision fading, arms flailing until someone yanked you up again. You hated it then. But now, in the Mekong, with rivers pulling at your legs and boats sinking lower under weight, you realise they were teaching you not to fear the water. It doesn't make it easier. It just makes the memory sharper every time you feel the river tug at your boots. Even the small details haunt you. The taste of sand in your mouth after a dive to the surf zone. The endless repetitions of tying knots blindfolded, hands cramping while the instructor circled. The way your body shook after days without sleep. Every nerve buzzing, every thought blurred. Out here, it all comes back. The exhaustion, the pain, the drills that seemed pointless then, but now guide your fingers without thought as you clear a jammed rifle or set a claymore in the dark. And always the voice in your head, not your own, but theirs. Cold, sharp, unrelenting, telling you to dig deeper, telling you to ignore the shaking in your legs, the pounding in your chest, the doubt in your mind, telling you pain is just proof you're still alive. You carry those voices into every swamp, every river, every night patrol. You hate them. You need them. Training was designed to haunt you, to follow you long after you left. And in the Delta, it does. Every time the silence stretches too long, every time your body feels like it's about to quit, every time the jungle presses in too close, the memories flood back. They don't comfort you. They don't scare you either. They just remind you that none of this is new. Misery didn't start here. It just changed shape. You shift your weight, squelch another step forward, the jungle buzzing again, now that the silence has passed. The instructors are still in your head, the training still in your muscles. You survived it once. Maybe that's why you're still moving now. The jungle doesn't need a bullet to break you. You can go down just as fast from a scratch, a bite, a stumble. It happens slowly, quietly, until one morning you wake up and realise your body is no longer yours. Out here, even the smallest injury is an open invitation. It starts with blisters. The boots rub raw against damp socks, skin softening in the constant wet. A small red spot grows into a bubble. The bubble bursts, and soon you're walking on a raw patch that burns with every step. You tape it if you can, stuff another pair of socks over it, grit your teeth and keep moving. But in the delta, wounds don't stay clean. Mud seeps in, sweat soaks through, mosquitoes bite at the edges. By nightfall, the blister is swollen, the skin angry and red. A few days later, pus oozes through the bandage, and your foot stinks every time you pull the boot off. That's how it starts. Cuts follow. Vines with hidden thorns slash at your arms. Bamboo splinters drive deep into your palms. Sharp reeds slice across your shins. You wash them with canteen water, maybe slap iodine on if you're careful. But the jungle is patient. Dirt creeps in. Bugs crawl across. Sweat drips down and carries filth with it. Within a week, a simple cut looks like rot. The skin swollen and hot to the touch. You can feel your pulse beating in it, each throb a warning. The leech wounds are worse. You pull them off with cigarettes or salt, but they don't let go clean. They leave raw pits that bleed for hours, and the bleeding doesn't stop. Days later, those pits turn dark, crusted with infection that spreads in angry streaks up your leg. You don't complain. You don't have time, but you limp more, stumble more, and every step sends a dull ache through your body. Then come the bigger injuries. A twisted ankle when the mud sucks you sideways. A knee that cracks wrong as you vault a route. A back strained from hauling a pack too heavy for too many miles. You try to walk it off, try to hide it, because admitting it means slowing everyone down. And slowing down is dangerous. So you push harder, ignoring the swelling, the pain, the grinding in your joints, until the injury becomes part of you. A permanent limp. A constant throb. Another scar the jungle leaves behind. Infections spread faster than bullets. Jungle rot eats at your feet until the skin peels away in sheets. Ringworm blooms in red circles across your arms and torso. Fungal rashes crawl over your groin, your armpits, anywhere the skin stays damp, which is everywhere. Boils rise and burst, leaving holes that ooze and sting. The corpsemen do what they can, but supplies are thin, medicine always running out. A little powder, a few tablets, a rough bandage, that's the best you'll get. Out here, medicine is as improvised as everything else. The corpseman's kit is never enough. He carries gauze, iodine, morphine, a few antibiotics, but it's a drop against a flood. So you improvise. You pack wounds with whatever you have. You tie strips of cloth torn from a shirt around a gash. Hold it in place with tape if you're lucky enough to find any. You burn wounds clean with cigarettes, the glowing tip pressed against skin, while the man screams through gritted teeth. You drain boils with knives that were cleaning rifles 10 minutes before. You swallow aspirin like candy and hope it dulls the fever crawling through your body. Sometimes the corpseman has penicillin. Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he has morphine. Sometimes only words to keep you still while someone digs out shrapnel with a blade that's been wiped on a pant leg. Improvised doesn't mean clean. Improvised means desperate. You pray the infection doesn't set deeper, doesn't creep into your blood, doesn't turn a wound into a death sentence. The jungle never runs out of ways to test you. Malaria creeps in with the mosquitoes. Fever spiking, body shivering in heat that should make you sweat. Dysentery takes hold after a careless sip of untreated water, stomach cramping until you can't stand, every movement draining more from you. You keep moving anyway, pale, weak, doubled over, because there's no choice. You can't stop for sickness. You can't stop for pain. The patrol doesn't wait. You see men pushed past the point of holding on. Skin grey, eyes glazed, wounds festering, but still dragging one foot in front of the other. Sometimes they make it until the extraction, until a helicopter can lift them out. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they collapse on the trail, their body finally giving out, and you're left crouching beside them, trying to decide whether it's worth risking the squad to carry them. Choices out here aren't fair. You don't think about clean hospitals, about crisp sheets or neat bandages. That world doesn't exist here. Injuries aren't treated, they're endured. Medicine isn't administered, it's improvised. Infection isn't cured, it's tolerated until your body either beats it or it doesn't. And every cut, every blister, every fever leaves a mark that never fully fades. You shoulder your pack again, rifle slick with sweat and rain, and feel the ache in your legs, the sting of rashes under your straps, the throb of half-healed cuts on your hands. You don't call them injuries anymore. They're just part of you now. Souvenirs of a place that breaks you piece by piece and never gives anything back. The mission's done, at least on paper. The shots have stopped, the shouting has gone quiet, the squad has regrouped in a patch of mud that barely counts as cover. The corpsman is still crouched over one of the wounded, bandages dark with blood, hands moving fast but steady. The rest of you crouch low, rifles out, heart still hammering. The fight may be finished, but nobody believes it's over. Now comes the part that gnaws at you worse than gunfire, the wait. Extraction never feels fast enough. You key the radio, voice low, calling in your position. Static crackles back, then a voice distorted by distance. Roger, stand by! Stand by. That single word stretches out like an eternity. You check your watch, then the tree line, then your watch again. Minutes crawl slower than hours. You tell yourself they'll be here soon, that the rotors are already spinning up miles away. But you know better. Soon doesn't mean much in the Delta. The silence after the firefight isn't really silence. It's too sharp, too loaded. Every leaf seems to move differently. Every sound seems deliberate. The jungle feels alive, watching you, waiting for you to relax. You don't relax. You keep your rifle tight to your shoulder, eyes scanning, ears tuned for the first snap. That will mean the enemy has decided you've overstayed your welcome. Because they know what you're waiting for. They know helicopters mean noise, exposure, and a chance to hit you before you lift out. The wounded moan softly. Someone mutters a prayer under his breath. And sweat slides down your temple as you stare at the sky. The minutes stretch longer. 5 out, the radio says, and you cling to it like it's gospel. 5 minutes feels like 50. You shift your weight, try to ignore the cramps in your legs. Try not to think about how open the clearing is. You wonder if the extraction point is a mistake, if you should move, if you're sitting ducks with your backs against the mud. You wonder if the bird is even coming at all. When the sound finally reaches you, it starts faint. A low thump in the distance, the steady chop of blades pushing air. At first you think maybe it's thunder. Then it grows louder, sharper, until the trees themselves seem to tremble with it. Relief surges in your chest, but it doesn't wash the fear away, because noise cuts both ways. If you can hear the helicopter, so can everyone else. The bird appears above the canopy, big and loud, wind from its rotors whipping the trees into frenzy. The clearing fills with dust, mud, and broken leaves, whipping into your eyes, choking your throat. You hunch low, rifle still up, as the bird hovers, searching for a place to land. The pilot is cautious, because he knows as well as you do that this moment is the most dangerous. Gunfire can erupt any second. Sometimes it does. Sometimes the tree line spits muzzle flashes, rounds snapping past, men diving into the mud as the bird's door gunners open up, spraying tracers into the green. The noise is deafening, the air thick with smoke and rotors, but all you can think is, get on, get out. The wounded go first, hauled up on stretchers or dragged by the arms, boots scraping mud. Then the rest of you pile in, heads ducked low, packs banging against the frame. The crew yells over the roar, pulling you inside as the helicopter dips, sways, then lifts. The ground falls away, the tree line dropping beneath you. You glance down, and the delta looks endless, rivers twisting, trees stretching without end. For a moment, you breathe, relief mixing with exhaustion. But sometimes extraction doesn't come. Sometimes the bird is delayed, or grounded, or redirected. Sometimes the radio crackles back with words you don't want to hear. Negative, hold position. And so you hold. Hours in the mud, rifles ready, eyes scanning until they blur. The sun shifts, the rain comes, the insects swarm. You wait, nerves stretched thin. Every sound another false alarm. You tell yourself they'll come. They always come. But in the back of your mind, you know the jungle would be just as happy if they didn't. Waiting for extraction teaches you something the firefights never do. In a fight, at least you're moving, firing, reacting. Waiting is different. Waiting is helplessness. You're exposed, static, counting seconds you can't control. The jungle presses in, the silence thickens, and you realise that out here, survival isn't just about what you can do. It's about whether the people in the sky remember you're down here at all. So you crouch lower, adjust your rifle, and wait. Always wait. Because out here, the fight isn't the hardest part. It's the stillness afterward, when you've done everything you can, and all that's left is to trust that someone, somewhere, is on their way to pull you out. The helicopter lifts you out, or the boat carries you downriver, and at some point the orders come through. Rotations up, you're headed back. Back, not to home yet, but to rear bases first. Then eventually to the States. The war doesn't end in a single moment. It leaks away slowly, peeling off layer by layer until you realise you're no longer in the Delta. You're no longer wading through mud or choking on rain. You're somewhere else. At first, there's relief. The gear comes off, the rifle goes into an armoury, the boots that never dried are tossed aside. You stand in a shower for the first time in months, Clean water pouring over you, washing away sweat, mud, blood, and insects. You soap yourself twice, 3 times, but the smell of the jungle clings, buried in your skin, a reminder that water alone can't scrub it out. You eat hot food from a tray, real meat, potatoes, bread that isn't soaked in grease. You taste it, chew it, but somehow it feels foreign, too rich, almost too much. Your stomach, trained on cardboard rations, doesn't know what to do with it. Then comes the quiet. Not the tense, loaded silence of the jungle, but the real thing. A room where the only sound is the hum of an air conditioner or the rustle of sheets. You lie down on a mattress, clean sheets under you, a pillow under your head, and you should feel comfort. Instead, you stare at the ceiling, wide awake. The silence doesn't soothe you. It unsettles you. You miss the noise, as much as you hated it. The frogs, the insects, the drip of rain. Without it, the world feels wrong, too empty. When you finally do close your eyes, the dreams come. The patrols, the rivers, the shadows that moved when they shouldn't. You wake drenched in sweat, heart hammering, reaching for a rifle that isn't there. The room is safe, the door locked, but your body doesn't believe it. Your body still thinks it's in the Delta. And then, eventually, you're sent home. You step off the plane and expect something. A welcome, maybe. Gratitude. At the very least, recognition of what you've been through. Instead, you find confusion. Strangers in airports look at you but don't understand. Some avoid your eyes. Some mutter under their breath. Some even shout things you never expected to hear. You don't look like the posters back home. You don't look like the recruiting ads. You look gaunt, eyes sunken, shoulders hunched. You look like someone who left pieces of himself behind in a swamp no one here will ever see. Family and friends try, but they don't know what to say. They ask questions, then regret asking them. They listen, then flinch at the answers. You stop talking after a while. It's easier. How do you explain mud that never left your boots? How do you explain mosquitoes that made you bleed more than bullets? How do you explain waiting in silence, knowing someone out there was deciding whether you lived or died? There aren't words for it, not ones they'll understand. So you nod when they say, "Welcome back." You smile when they say, "It must be good to be home." You sit at tables full of food, clean plates, laughter, and you wonder why you feel more out of place here than you ever did in the jungle. At least the Delta made sense. The enemy wanted you dead, the jungle wanted you miserable, and every day was a battle just to keep moving. Out here, the rules are fuzzier. People complain about traffic, about the weather, about things that feel so small you can't even respond. You sit quietly and let them talk, your mind half stuck thousands of miles away. You notice little things. The smell of rain on asphalt instead of jungle mud. The taste of fresh bread that doesn't come from a tin. The softness of socks right out of a drawer. They should feel like luxuries. Instead, they feel fragile, unreal, like they could vanish any second. You keep waiting for the mud to return, for the insects to whine, for the silence to drop heavy before an ambush. None of it comes, but your body doesn't believe that. It still twitches at every loud sound, every sudden shadow. You're home, but you don't feel it. You walk streets that don't look the same as they did before. You hear music, laughter, chatter, but it doesn't cut through. You're caught between two worlds, and neither feels solid. Out there, in the Delta, you knew the rules. Here the rules don't apply, and no one can tell you how to live with that. Coming back isn't about stepping off a plane. It isn't about leaving the mud behind. It's about carrying it with you, even when no one else can see it. The jungle doesn't let you go. It stays in your skin, your lungs, your dreams. And when the world around you shrugs, when it doesn't understand, you realise you've traded one kind of isolation for another. Out there, you are cut off by rivers, mud, and silence. Here, you're cut off by people who'll never really know what it meant. So you smile when they ask how you're doing. You say fine. You eat your dinner. You sleep in your bed. You walk down clean streets. But inside, you know part of you never left. Part of you is still out there, knee-deep in the Mekong, listening for the silence before contact, swatting mosquitoes in the dark, waiting for a helicopter that might or might not come. Part of you always will be. That's what it was like. Not the stories in movies, not the posters back home, but the day-to-day reality of men sent into a place that seemed designed to grind them down. Mud that never left, rain that never stopped, insects that fed as constantly as the enemy hunted, and the weight of gear that bent every step. The fight was only part of it. The rest was just surviving, day after day, in a world that gave nothing freely. When it ended, for those who made it out, the war didn't really stay behind. The memories, the sounds, the weight, all of it followed home, even into places where no one else could see it. The Delta leaves its mark, whether you're there a week, a year, or a lifetime. And for the ones who lived through it, that mark never fades.